presentations out on our website. They're not high quality things, and they're links into YouTube, but the content is good. So we have Vicki Johnson, who's done a student data presentation, and there's no one stronger here in information systems than Vicki. Vicki has worked with the previous student system. She helped lead the effort to implement Banner system, and then ODS gets all of its data from Banner. There's no one that knows student better than she does. So we have a video from her out there. John Hunter came from business and financial services across the street. He's our expert on accounting and all financial stuff. So when Vinay gets in the presentation on the financial data warehouse, we actually brought John Hunter back. So we had him for about 6 months, and he worked part-time for us, and he was instrumental for our design of the Financial Datamart. So, but just to recap, today's focus really is going to be on our financial data warehouse. If you're looking to get a presentation on HR or student, we're not even going to go there, other than I just mentioned we've got some videos. Come on in, folks. Grab a seat. So has anybody here had an opportunity to look at our data dictionary? We have done a completely revamped data dictionary, and it's a lot more interactive. So the feedback is good then?
Yes.
Come on in.
Thank you very much.
Oh, sure.
Can you click very quickly on it?
You want to see it?
Very quickly, just.
Wow, we're upstairs.
Hey, John.
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good. Doug?
Just more on this side, John.
Okay.
One or two. You're quick enough.
So for those of you guys that have not seen our data dictionary, awesome, we're filling in. Vinay, if we need to grab more chairs, we can steal them out of the conference room.
Somebody can sit here and grab some.
The CSU A to Z, and I just go to O for looking for ODS, and I'll just click on our link for the ODS webpage. And then, so this is our webpage that some of you may or may not use. But at the very top of it, and I'm not going to go through our webpage, guys, but I just wanted to show you that there is a data dictionary here. And we had a request to actually shibbolise this, so you have to be a CSU person, and you have to put in your e-name. And I didn't expect to actually show this today, but this is our new data dictionary. Anna, did you have anything in particular?
No, I've been to the old one many times, but.
So the old one's really scary looking, and what you can't do with the old one is you can't do any type of searching. Guys, this is Alan's baby. Alan Hill, I introduced him earlier to some of you, but Alan Hill to my left here has developed this page, and it took us a little while to roll it out because we're using a technology that it just took a while to get it approved. And in the meantime, Alan added a ton of capability off here. So if you get an opportunity, please look at the data dictionary. But where's my? So the first agenda item is do we have Rosemary off to my left that said that she likes it. Anna seems to like it. We still want to understand how we can improve it and what we need to add. So guys, we're going to cover our financial data warehouse today only. So I'm not going to get into the data dictionary, but if you have ideas, feedback, any ways to improve it, please send them to Alan Hill. Do we have our authority folks here? Is Bob here? Is anybody from authority here?
Yeah, I'm Bob. Hi, John.
Hey.
Nice to meet you personally.
Nice to meet
Thank you
you.
for calling me out in front of everybody. In the corner.
I did warn you I would do that, didn't I?
I know, man. I saw the agenda. It's like he wasn't lying. So, but yes. Hi, everybody.
Are you the only person from authority here?
Yes. Well, there is only one now. And it is me, yeah.
Okay, because you do have a DBA over there, because I have got.
Right, and that's being
And that's
Sally,
Sally, yes.
Okay.
Yes, so she does help on that side.
Thank you for showing up, even though I offended you the other day by saying, "Why are you accessing our data?"
No worries. No
Okay.
worries.
So Bob, I didn't mean to steal your limelight here. So you are Clint Brown and Missy Hines' replacement, and if we have questions about authority reports, you're the person to go to.
Yes, so I've been appointed to to take Clint's place, and Missy has transferred over to our finance department. So I've offered my services for for full university support for authority. And I've actually worked with Clint and Missy with the authority like the last 6 years or so, but my specialty, I'm mainly focused on the ETH and South Canvas and stuff, and now since they're gone, I've offered to take on the roles as well. So.
All right, well, awesome. So, I know a lot of the folks here use authority for reporting, and I know that we had, a change of the reins. So, thank you, Bob,
Yep.
and I apologize for putting you on the spot.
More than happy to help. Among it, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me.
Okay, and that kind of segues in a little bit to the next item. So, our campus reporting tool, and sorry, I did get my hand slapped for that one. I am not familiar with what a documented quote really is to go through an official purchasing process. I thought it was kind of fast tracking an RFP, which can be a fairly elaborate process to interview all these vendors, reporting tools, have them come show us, demo their stuff. And then I thought the quote would kind of fast track that, and we'd kind of give like 2 or 3 of our favorite tools. And I've been told now that the documented quote will go out to the public, and we're actually going to start from ground zero and entertain any vendor solutions out there. Is that now a little bit more correctly spoken?
That is correct. And I can answer any questions. I didn't come here specifically for that. I do use the ODS tables, so I came here as a user, but I'm more than happy to answer any procurement questions about the process.
But Vinay, are we videoing? So I just wanted to put it on record that John is retracting. I have misspoken. So some of you actually had, this was almost 2 years ago, but we had several vendors on campus where IBM was pitching their Cognos tool. We had Tableau was on campus. Burst was the more well-received tool. IBM I've worked with Cognos, and I love Cognos. They did a horrible job. IBM did a horrible job of pitching their tool because they were just more into the visualizations and graphics as opposed to producing financial reports. And I know Cognos is great for doing that, but their focus was not. And if we would have had Lucian, who is our banner student, the Aries software, Lucian is a vendor for that. They actually are value-added resellers of Cognos. And I work at another institution where they're having great success using Cognos with their Lucian products. And I know that Oracle was there, and then SAP had been invited, but they didn't show up. Out of those various different tools, Burst was kind of a leading one, but we're going to start from scratch. So then my update to you is we have no update. Unfortunately, it will take us some time. Do we even have any kind of a guess how long this process?
So we finalized the committee. So there's a committee of 7 folks who is participating, and I can't release who those folks are. So we are scheduling a meeting to go over the draft of the solicitation, and then I think we're going to post it for about 21 days because it's a documented quote, so it doesn't have to be posted as long as an RFP. And then we'll go through the usual reviewing the responses, inviting vendors back for presentations or demonstrations. We could, if the stars aligned, a few months. But given the size of the committee and who some of the folks are, I don't know if we can accomplish it in a few months.
So why can't we disclose who's on the committee?
Because it's kind of like a search for an employee. You don't disclose disclose who's on this.
Oh, otherwise the vendors would contact those individuals directly. Okay. But high level, hi, Kathy Gardner is joining us. Kathy also, she leads the ODS team. She's on vacation, but she came in for our meeting. So just to put you on the spot, Kathy. So Farah is talking about our documented quote for a reporting tool.
So the way that I always categorize it or characterize it is it's an RFP without the brain damage. So you get the flexibility or the luxury of being able to evaluate on things other than price under a documented quote, but it doesn't have to be posted for 30 days. It doesn't have the formality of an RFP. So that's why we're going to do a documented quote instead. And we're within our threshold to allow for that.
Can we share the areas that the people are in?
Sure. We have some folks from IS, obviously, online is participating, CVMBS, athletics,
Biology, microbiology or something.
College of Business.
Okay. Right, and then we have 7 individuals.
So those
from
are
those.
voting or evaluation members, and then through the process we'll have an opportunity for ex officio members of the committee or open demonstration. So if you're not a part of the committee, there will still be an opportunity for other folks on campus to participate in the procurement.
So will that be for the entire suite of vendors, or when we start to narrow it down?
The committee will have to decide how they want that to look.
Okay, it might be open. So, okay. And last time we did it, it was open to everybody, and we only had, what, 4 or 5 vendors, but everybody was welcome. You know, it was extremely difficult to receive everybody's feedback because we'd get, you know, some BFS folks would see this vendor or maybe that vendor, but they wouldn't see all vendors, and then they would change folks, and then we'd have different areas, and so you can't collectively get an opinion. So, you know, if we do start inviting vendors across campus, if you're going to have an opinion about them, it would be probably more helpful to like see all of the vendors to be able to say, you know, compare the different ones.
Correct. So do folks have questions about?
Thank you.
Sure.
I didn't expect to put you on the spot either. So, but I do expect to put Vinay on the spot, and I'm not even going to attempt to go with his last name. I'll let them know. Vinay, how do we say your last name?
It's Ganapa Warapu.
Okay, and we just call him affectionately as Vinay. And Vinay, you want me? Let me just.
Yeah.
So while Vinay is connecting, guys, we used to do the ODS user group every 2 months, and we used to have subject matter experts that would help out. We've kind of covered that. I don't know that we've covered HR, but I'm John Walker. So if you guys want to be added to the ODS user listserv, so a lot of you are new faces that I sent out to the ODSL listserv, the broader ODS listserv. But I won't, if we have meetings for the user group, I'll probably just contact a smaller listserv. So if you want me to add you to that smaller ODS user group, just let me know. So do I have you on there?
Yep.
Okay. I've got you though, as well as Steve.
Yeah. Interviewing all day. Who's that? Steve's in interviews. All day. Or Steve's interviews.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully you get some good folks.
Welcome everyone to this discussion on financial data warehouse. A couple of years ago, when information systems found out that there was many problems with the ODS, including 2 major ones like data redundancy and no single source of truth. That's when I decided to do some gap analysis and see where things can be improved. And we did bring in a consultant company. I can't remember the company's name.
CBIG.
CFIG, okay. I think some of you were interviewed by that company to find out things can be improved. And they suggested, or their recommendation was to build a data warehouse from scratch instead of repairing the existing ODS. And that's what we tried to do. So, so the current state of ODS is like this. So if you went to a superstore and then you want to shop for grocery and electronics, they said they could give you a grocery and apparel, but to buy electronics you have to go to another branch of theirs, and they give the address. So the current state of ODS is like that. So you can, first of all, you cannot find a single source of truth for your data. Even if you find one, there are many tables you could go to find the same data, and you don't know which one is true. And if you want to add new fields to the existing tables, you're not sure if you are going to break some other report for somebody else. So to solve all those problems, we built this data warehouse. So what do we plan to accomplish by building this data warehouse? We plan to replace approximately 85 to 90% of on-campus reporting, the department reports, not the official Vista Plus PDF reports, which is a system of record reports for CSU, but just the department reports. Just to say, we do match the numbers on Vista Plus reports. So, replacing them would be a bonus, but that's not the aim here.
So Vinay, can I stop you there? So do we have BFS folks here that work with Jasper and creating the Vista Plus reports? We don't. Okay. So we've had them in the past. But just from a show of hands, does everybody here query the ODS directly, or do some people actually use their accounting reports off of Vista Plus? Are there any folks? Because I know when we put together our budget, we actually use Vista Plus, and they're PDFs, and you can't interact. You can't just grab a subset of the numbers. So Teresa, I see you shaking your head. So you query a lot, but you also still use Vista Plus.
It's the system of record balanced. Yeah.
Okay, so that's our system of record.
Tables to load our tables. We use ODS tables.
Okay, but you're not using Vista Plus,
No,
though.
we're not using Vista
Okay,
Plus.
so are there other Vista Plus users here in the room? Okay, so you guys are.
We tie out like Teresa does. Tie out, use the transaction data, and try to tie to Vista Plus.
Okay. So most folks, though, are querying the ODS directly, and some of you are reconciling with Vista Plus. Okay. I'm sorry. We said that we wanted to target 85% to departmental usage and not Vista Plus. This is the second time we're presenting our design here, and we actually, the first time we presented it to BFS, and they gave us some suggestions, and we've actually done a slight redesign, so we can actually accommodate the Vista Plus type reports. Our goal initially wasn't to do that, but based on our feedback from them, we're a lot more hopeful that not only can we replace a fair amount of departmental reporting, but we can also replace the official system of record reports. And we've not really embarked on that journey yet, but we feel like we've got that capability because of the next item that I'll give back to Vinay. Sorry, Vinay.
So apart from generating the standard kind of reports, this design also enables users to perform analytics, including building dashboards, in the future maybe prescriptive or predictive analytics, that kind of stuff. This design is the basis for analytics. So we took this approach. We met with various offices across campus, and then we, for requirements, we met with them, and we found out a few things. Just as John asked you guys just now, some people were using the ODS views, some were using Vista Plus PDFs, some were using the GL transactions at the most detailed level, while some others were using the aggregated dollars. But they had to query different tables or different views for all of that data. But in this case, in this design, we'll limit those number of tables to just 15 or 17 tables, and then you can get all of the above data. The plus point or credibility point here is that a similar design was actually implemented by a couple of other KFS schools, including UConn and UC Davis. UConn actually uses the data warehouse that they built with a similar design for 100% of their system of record reporting. They've been in production for about 4 years now. That's definitely a plus point and gave us more confidence on our design. So what is the design that we're talking about? We built a single financial data warehouse. So it's actually a data mart. A data warehouse corresponds to the enterprise data, which includes financial, HR, student. You don't have all of that. We started with one piece, which is financial data. Do we have any members in the data governance team here? So the data governance team has decided that we choose to start with financial data first. So we decided to build Financial Datamart. So there will be many data marts in the future. One for finance. This is the finance piece. There will be one in the future for HR. There will be one in the future for student. So everything together will form the enterprise data warehouse, which will be a single source of truth. So in this financial piece of data warehouse, we have something like 15 business dimensions and a single fact table. And we'll get to the definitions a little later. Like I said, this is supposed to produce a financial report at any level of detail, including the very transactional, the GL transaction level of detail, as well as aggregated dollars. Apart from that, it also completely supports BI charts or graphs or dashboards that you may choose to build. And we plan to replace about 180 financial ODS views. If we add anything to the existing ODS view, we would break something else. So that's the reason we've been building custom ODS views for different purposes each and every time. And we plan to stop doing that and point everything to the data warehouse.
So when Vinay says that the single source of truth, what we're saying is when we hired CBIG, they came to campus, interviewed you guys or your respective areas, and everybody complained. We've got 180 tables and views just for finance. That doesn't include the student stuff, and there's a lot of redundancy, there's a lot of overlap, and Vinay will show you that even though we have like these 15 dimensions, they're all connected together, and there's really one-stop shopping for any kind of financial report that we would envision producing.
So one of the things with ODS was you would have to go to different tables for different kinds of data within the same concept. So if you want current data for organization, you have to go to one table. If you want historical data, you have to go to a snap table. If you use snap tables for reporting. Similarly for account or object. If you want historical data, you would end up using a different table. If you want some other attributes, you would have to query a different table. But with this design, we want to accomplish this thing. So we want all of the attributes for a single concept of data to be in one source. So if you want account data, you just go to one table or maybe two tables. Account has been split into two tables, we'll see that. If you want object, you just go to one table. There's one more optimization here, which is if you want to, sometimes you may end up writing complex queries for the dimension tables. So we have pre-built a summary table which has the aggregate dollar amounts. Those dollar amounts are the most frequently being used in most of the reports or some of the reports. Those dollar amounts are similar to what we see in the GL balance summary adjust. So this is kind of the current status. So we met people for business requirements, and we have validated the data with the help of subject matter expert John Hunter. I don't know if some of you know him. Okay. And we are here today to ask you guys to embrace this model and help us, design it better. If you want any new aggregate dollar amounts or things like that, we will build them for you. We can work with you, write the queries or things like that. It's not in production yet though. We are in test system, and we want to see how the design responds to the month-end and year-end data, because we have some customizations for the current process in ODS, and we want to replicate that for the data warehouse. So you may see this in production maybe in mid-July or end of July. This is how the star schema looks like. This is a conceptual design. So when we identified finance as our first piece of the enterprise data warehouse, within finance we chose one business process, which is general ledger transaction. So when you talk about general ledger transaction, you have to identify different aspects of that data so that you can break it up into different tables. These are just tables. These are just Oracle tables, but this is just a conceptual representation of that design. So when we talk about GL transaction, we know that there's a timestamp to that transaction, so that's why we have a time table. We know that a transaction can take place in a particular fiscal year and fiscal period. So that has been broken off into its own table. So we also know that there's an org related to GL transaction. We know money is flowing in and out of accounts and sub-funds. So they have their own tables. Similarly, we can have sponsor. Not all GL transactions have sponsor. Only research data has a sponsor. Similarly, the KFS document data is in its own table. So these were the tables I was talking about, which are the single source of truth. If you want org data, you just query that one table, both for history and for current data. If you want account, you just query this one table. Similarly, object or sub-object. So those are their own single source of truths, and they are all tied together to one main table, which is called the fact table. These are the dimension tables, and this is the fact table. The fact table has the quantitative field. In this case, it is a dollar amount, or the GL transaction amount. If we pick a different process, student enrollment, for example, the quantitative field would be head count in a particular course. That would be in a fact table.
So Vinay, you kind of glossed over one thing a little fast. So let me just emphasize that. So Teresa and John Stocking, I'm pretty sure you guys use the monthly snaps. We have 3 monthly snaps where we keep data by fiscal year and also fiscal period. And that applies to account, organization, and object codes. So after meeting with BFS, we decided to incorporate that fiscal year, fiscal period concept. So all of this supports that. And as Vinay is saying, you can actually query these individual dimensions separately because we have all of the account, all of the organization, and all the object going back to just 2010 is when we implemented KFS.
So these tables are just like any other Oracle tables, but they have a logical design to it. So we had to use a data modeling tool to design this data mart. This is a snapshot from that data modeling tool called Urban. And that's the fact table, and these are the dimensions. You can't see anything. Let's zoom into that. So this is how a fact table looks like. These are the foreign keys, or the pointers, or the joiners to the other dimensions. And we just have one quantitative field here, which is the general ledger entry amount. We also have another field, which is general ledger entry amount adjust, which actually takes care of the credit debit field.
Yeah, so really there's only $1 figure out here. It's that amount. We provided amount adjust because what we found, we're IT guys, we're not accountants, so we would look at budget dollars, and budgets had positive and negative numbers. They didn't have a debit credit code. And then we had debit credit code, and John showed us, well, we could multiply credits by -1 and get the negative, except for 5 different object types that you can't do that. So we've done that for you guys. So we do have $2 amounts. The original dollar amount that's on the GL entry, plus we've incorporated the budgets. So everything now is a positive or a negative number. If for budget dollars, if the debit credit was missing, then we just kind of created it all based on using accounting rules. But it's still just $1. So a little bit later, we'll show you something else that we kind of made a little bit easier, because to use this $1, you still have to have a fair amount of accounting knowledge to know, balance types and what makes up a budget versus an encumbrance dollar, and we'll get into that in just a little bit.
That's the adjusted dollar.
So you will notice that this table here just looks just like GL entry table, except it doesn't have any of those account attributes or org attributes or object attributes or sub-object or sub-account. Any of those details are not here. Instead, they have been pushed into their own tables, and the pointers are here. You'll see something like a foreign key here. The foreign keys are named surrogate keys in this case. Surrogate key is nothing but a unique key that is generated by the table loading process based on the business key. We'll go into a little more detail in the next slide here. So you see a date dimension which has all different kinds of dates, time attributes that you can think of. You also have a separate fiscal period dimension. This is account. So if you pick the account table, you will notice that the combination of fiscal year, fiscal period, the combination of these 4 fields form a unique record in this table here. So instead of joining on these 4 tables,
and we put some pieces in place to make that a little easier.
So this is the master table, which again brings together GL entry, fact, and also some of the dimension tables. We've included fields in this table which are most frequently used in many reports. We may not find all of the fields that we need, but we have most fields in this one table. This table still has just $1 amount, which is the GL entry amount. So we built this for you to make things easier. If you don't want to join all the fact and the dimension tables, you can just use this one table.
So Vinay, let's not rush over that concept. So Vinay showed you a really cool picture where the fact table is in the middle, and we saw all of these 15 dimensions hung off of there. The query to join all that together is probably going to be a little overwhelming for some of you. I know it was overwhelming for me, and I'm a programmer by trade. So Vinay has built this master table to do all of that joining for you. So this is, and I wrote this up there, Vinay, we should have put the, so a lot of you guys are used to using Excel and Access where you go into the ODS and you have to specify RBID or CSU KFS as the owner. Something we call owner or schema is the same thing. But all of this stuff is in the ODS right now. We actually do have it in prod. Vinay, they provided the grants to the users. So you guys are used to using the ODS. You're in this role called financial reporting. You actually can look at this today. Production is not stable. We just did it this morning for the first time. There is actually data there. The owner schema is DWFIN. So this table is out there under DWFIN. You can look at it. DWFIN is going to be the owner of all of the fact and those individual dimensions. So if you wanted to look at the account or object dimension that's out there, they're all under DWFIN, and we only have 15 tables total, but the challenge to you is joining that, because the fact has like all these crazy keys that we call surrogate keys, foreign keys, and it's not the easiest thing, so he has done that for you. The problem with this is that we had to pre-guess what fields you're going to use. So anything in this Datamart can be put on a report if we join all of that together. But we've done kind of like the GL balance summary adjust, where it has a preset number of fields that we think that you guys use on your reports. We've run this by BFS, so they've had us kind of change this, group the fields together, put the right ones on there that we've deemed to be the higher priority fields. So if that's not the case, we're more than welcome to receive feedback on this master table. But we think that this will be of use to you, and it is out there now to look at. Unfortunately, it still just has kind of the one amount, the adjusted amount.
I have one question. The current general ledger ARVID table only pulls in actuals, and then you have to go to another table for budget, BA entries. Are they combined now in the same table, or will we still have two tables for budget documents and for actual documents?
This table has both a budget and actual documents.
So Teresa, let me back you up on that. So the GL entry T table drives this. We have every single transaction in there. Doesn't that have budgets and actuals all in there?
ARVID does not pull in the budget adjustment documents.
We're not using ARVID.
Okay. It doesn't do the BA?
The BA or the SSBAs.
Those should hit the GL, and we've got budget and actual in here.
Okay.
So
That's what, so
okay.
in one.
So you're not used to using the GL to answer those, the budgeting?
I get a pull from the budget ARVID table for budget documents, and I have to pull from GL for actuals entries that are occurring.
And
So-
the encumbrance table for encumbrances.
And the
as well.
encumbrance table for the.
Guys, that's all in here. So when we had met with you to do our initial design, we kind of shifted gears on you guys, because we were saying our design was going to be driven off of the GL balance summary adjust, where it kind of puts those dollars already in those buckets. And then we shifted gears because Connecticut convinced us if we did the GL entry, we can drill down to any level of detail, down to the transaction. The cost of that is then you kind of lose that nice aggregating. So when we shifted from GL balance summary adjust to GL entry, this is kind of GL entry. That's what I'm saying. You kind of have to have that accounting knowledge to decide, well, where are my encumbrances? Where are my project to date dollars? Where are my budget dollars? So we do have one more thing to give that to you. So we haven't taken anything away, but this is our stepstone. So the next thing that kind of gives you those smarter dollars is driven off of this thing. This thing is driven off of the Datamart and the fact table, but it's all together with any field that we think are on your reports. We actually went out to the Vista Plus system of record reports, and we didn't go through every single one, but we went through a lot of them, and we've gotten feedback that these are your more important fields, like spending authority. I see that on there, and spending authority is actually a brainchild from John when he was over in Ag Sciences.
What else is?
Just looking for the fields. So balance type and object type are the two that would help you identify is this an actual transaction or a budget transaction. I see balance type was up on the top right up there. So
Yeah, balance type.
the object type, and you not see my hand.
I see a work type. John, it's there.
Yeah, I believe you.
It's critical.
Yeah.
And I'm going to actually show you guys some actual data too, not just pictures of the tables.
There's object types right there.
Yeah, awesome.
And that's the summary table that we built. This contains the aggregate dollars. Can you zoom in on that? We have budget revenue amount, budget amounts, current amounts, month date, year to date, and project date, encumbrances. This table has been built off of the master table that we saw earlier, but we applied some accounting rules to it to summarize.
So John, this one uses the balance type codes, the object type codes, the posting period to decide where those dollars go.
Is the budget revenue amount, John, is that one fields you use for determining cash versus appropriated?
I have not
Different
used that
types of
field,
revenue?
so, yeah, it's new to me.
So initially, Teresa, we had done like one beginning budget amount, and then we added the field above that accounting category code that actually splits it out between revenue and expense. So you can either use the beginning budget amount, or if it's important to see that it's a revenue versus an expense. So we did that to two fields. We split out the beginning budget and then project. The project to date, also you can use the PTD actual amount, which is just a single project to date, or if it's important to see it based on the revenue versus expense, we split that out. So we learned a lot about accounting in this process. We'll forget it in 5 days, but.
So John already touched on this. That's how you get access to the data. You already have access to the data warehouse with your role. And that's the owner of the schema named DW Fin.
Do you guys want to have questions? Do you want me to kind of show you a little bit more of the data? Because we're kind of talking about the design here. We'll entertain questions now, or you may have additional ones if I show you the actual data.
I'm just wondering about a rollout plan. Are you going to touch on that too? Like, this is it, right? Like, are these slides going to be available? That sort of situation.
We really we don't anticipate having any like training classes. So this is kind of our announcement. We have presented to CAG to let them know what we're doing. We rushed this into production because we have an interest of seeing, when we added the fiscal year, fiscal period stuff, we need to make sure that as we go through the month end, so we get to do 1 month end before we get a month end, year end shot. And we wanted it in production in May to make sure that we're kind of covering the bases here. This is actually going to run in parallel. I think we had some fear in the room that we're pulling stuff out of the ODS. We're not pulling anything out of the ODS. Our long-term goal is we have 180 tables that are, a lot of it is very redundant, so we do want to streamline the ODS. And if we can get people to adopt this, then that will position us to be able to eliminate stuff that's in the ODS. But we don't really have an official rollout plan. And this is probably the best training that we're going to offer on it, so you better ask questions.
So you'll keep ODS until we have a new reporting tool, because some of us use authority quite a bit as well, and we don't want that to get interrupted until the new tool's here.
Absolutely, Teresa. We're not taking anything away. So a lot of you guys are using authority. Authority pulls from the ODS. So if we pulled stuff out of the ODS, then authority wouldn't be able to get it. Someone had raised the question: are we going to put this into authority? And there's really no benefit to that. The benefit of authority is the fact that these guys have built these accounting reports for you, and you can just run them. So if we change the source of all that reporting, someone's got to rewrite the reports off of this. So do you need to do that in authority, or can you just write those reports off of this directly? And our hope is that people are satisfied with just writing the reports directly against the ODS. So again, we're not eliminating anything now. A year from now, we might be fighting with you guys to see, okay, well, why do we got to hang on to this? Why aren't we using the new tool? So there is no time frame for any of that, Teresa. There's no, we had thought we had gotten approval for funding dollars. Good, Farrah's not here, she left. To purchase bursts. We thought we had a reporting tool. Then right away, people had brought up, well, how long is it going to take IS to replace all of the authority reports in bursts? And we're like, where'd that come from? Because we're not report writers. So no one's made that decision. We haven't even made the decision on, when do we get the tool in place and on campus? And then the next big question is how long and who's going to do the conversion of authority? And we don't know that. So those are very up in the air.
So if you plan to start using this, I suggest your starting point be the master table and or the revenue expense summary table. You can also start querying the individual dimensions. Joining the fact table with dimensions may be a little complex at the beginning. So I suggest your starting point be the master table and the revenue expense summary tables.
So Vinay, I might be connected to our ETL product is something called Pentaho, and we're using that to build the data warehouse. I might look at the thing that builds that master because it would have all the crazy joins just to scare the heck out of everybody, to convince them, don't build this together. You know, start with using the master and start with using the summary thing. Who's code?
Anna's going to.
It's Anna's.
How are you dealing with, because we always look at data throughout the year, we always year to year, analytics, we don't do transactional things. But departments changing names, is there it was very quick, I didn't see, is there a place where it shows the last name, or it's something we have to program?
Are you talking about ARC and the managers changing?
No, like our department. There used to be institutional research, now it's institutional research, planning and effectiveness. I'm writing a report year to year. I want to see the same last name. You see what I'm saying?
So if you're in a query right now and you just said, I want to see everything for that department, you run the risk of duplicating the data because it's going to show it all for once under the new name that she has for the department, and then it's going to show it again under the old name that the department had last year. So there might be a unique identifier between fiscal years on this department number, that this name this year, this name that year.
Right. So there is a unique identifier based on the fiscal year, fiscal period. So you will see all the changes that took place for your org, for any org, in that one dimension, organization dimension. Organization underscore dim is a table that has all the history of when changes took place. Even your reports to org, you will find that change in that table. Yeah.
So I would have to program internally to get to show when I'm showing the name to show the last one.
To show the last one, yes. You might have.
And we used you as an example, Anna. So we knew you guys changed from the VP of IT over to the Provost's office, and we wanted to see. So that was one of the main reasons why we incorporated the redesign to use the SNAP approach of doing things based on the fiscal year and fiscal period. Initially, we had we were going to consider attempting a more accurate way of capturing the date that you guys switched, and because it might not have been June 30th or July 1, it could have been mid-May. You know, departments will change their name mid-May. They certainly are going to change their fiscal officers and supervisors. So we were going to kind of capture that, and then we caught that the downside of that is we're going to have this complexity where you're going to get two records because this org, you know, reported to two different VPs or what have you. And we thought that would be really painful for report writers to be able to accommodate for that. And we just simplified it and we said we're going to do it the way that the current system of record reports do it now, which is they don't really care that you switched in May. They want to know that for period, what is May? 11. Period 11, where did you end up? So when you look at, you know, period 11, you would be in the new provost, but if you looked at period 10, you're going to be IT or whatever. Does that make sense? Does that raise concerns?
Is that the case with some of you here, that you want to report on historical stuff, but you want to see the current reports to our current manager or something like that? Is that what you do?
Yeah.
Yes.
So you might have to add another field. That's good to know.
Yeah, I don't have. You know, will this automatically? Oh, okay. It will automatically for Vinay's help. We stole Vinay from New Mexico. He completed his master's down there, where he actually was built his design off of a banner school. So he did his thesis on it. We read his thesis when we were interviewing him, but he actually implemented his, people he worked for at New Mexico loved the thesis so much they let him implement it into production, and now we're implementing it into production here. So, and I would say, is our Financial Datamart maybe a little bit better than the one in?
They have a banner school, so that's all banner data. This is KFS. This is my first time implementing a KFS.
He did IR. He did IR.
Oh, yeah, he was in IR when he did that. So you're not going to say it's any better, okay? You can't steal those accolades. I'm sorry, I didn't. This is a remote desktop. So all my window sizes are bad. Is Doug still here? So kind of our starting point is us. We picked our department, 1029. I don't know how many of you guys know the report names. I don't. But in Vista Plus, this is what we're calling the FAFD report. This helped us kind of design that summary thing where we have budget dollars, and we've got, you know, the original budget, the current budget, actuals is split out by current for this period. I'm actually looking at period 4, which is October, you know, from this year, 2017. The project to date, the encumbrances. So we borrowed all of this, and we know that there's several reports in Vista Plus. So this FAFD one, and also an FAFS, which is a little bit less detailed. This is actually at, you know, not only are we 1029 for our department org, here's the sub-fund. This is kind of at an account level, and then also underneath the account is account object. The FAFS kind of rolls it up so it's at maybe an object level, and it's not at, no, it wouldn't be, because it's just at the, I think, department level. It's not at an account level. So this has a fair amount of detail. So I'm looking at, you know, what, 135, I can't see that guys from here, but 135, 800, 135 to 800, 6600, we see this number. We're not Power BI people. I should have Doug present Power BI to us. Is anybody using Power BI as a reporting tool? Okay, so we got a couple of Power BIs. Okay, well we're not. I know Doug is in research, but here's an example. See these numbers kind of match that. You can see this number here was 6600. So here's just a hands-on report. This is off of the summary. This isn't off the master, so I don't have to know any accounting stuff. I just queried the summary. If we look at my query, you'll see how basic it is. If we get past that, I don't know what that error message is. I rename my things. Here's my summary, or I'm sorry, here's my query. So I do a select asterisk. You got to know DW Fin, and here's the name of that summary table, which is GL Revenue Expense Summary. And I just wanted to grab for fiscal year, our current fiscal year, and our department, which is 1029. So that is way easier than actually so here's the master. So here's a select asterisk from the master table. I also pulled in 2017. I grabbed our department. I did period 4. So again, we had to guess at which fields you guys need. We used the GL Balance Summary Adjust to help us identify these important fields, but we did get feedback from people, and we've massaged it to add fields. This is something, if you guys can query this master, the downside to this is you have to know to use the $2 amounts here. So here's an example where you just get a positive number and it's actually negative, probably based on the object type code. And here's the debit credit code. So those were maybe budget things. No, if it was a budget, it would set minus there. So, but here's an example where a D debit code is actually generating a negative number. And again, that's based on something that an accountant told us to do on the object types. So if you guys know all those rules, have that GL Tran Master. If you don't know that stuff, then this GL revenue expense summary is the way to go. And we only have these predefined numbers. But John, we are happy with these numbers because out of the GL balance summary adjust table or view, it has like 12 different numbers, but we're pretty sure most people are just using the 4 numbers representing the budget dollars, the actual dollars, the project dollars, and the encumbrance dollars, and that's what we've simulated here. So off to the left here, you guys probably aren't familiar with this tool, so I just wanted to show that I'm looking at DWFin as my schema. And here's a list of all the dimensions. So when you see the account, there's a dim after that. And that's one of our dimensions. And we do join it to the GL Tran fact. And if you guys want to query these, you're more than welcome to. But if I queried this fact table, it's not going to make a lot of sense to you because most of the stuff in here are these keys to go out and get the dimension attributes. So you guys have access to all of these tables off to the left. You're more than welcome to query that if you want. But the net result of your queries, you're going to end up with this GL Tran Master, and it still hasn't organized the dollars for you. So if you want organized dollars, come down to the summary. But if you guys will please query both this Tran Master and the summary. So we took a stab at this summary. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we came up with additional summary type queries that weren't focused on revenue expense. For us to entertain doing that, we need to receive the feedback from this group or campus reps. So we've made this one real easy. If we need to make some other ones easy, then we're certainly open to doing that because we don't expect people to be the accountants to be able to glue all of this back together. So if we need more summaries, then let's pursue that. Because obviously if we want to get people away from using the other 180 tables because we can create 2 or 3 summaries that make your life easy, then we want to do that. But I don't have my pen, I closed down my window, so I can't show you the big master query that joins everything that builds this master. But trust me, it's very intimidating and it's scary. Guys, that was everything that we needed to present, and we got till 12. So if you've got questions, concerns, I'm more than glad to address them now.
We'll go back and play with it and come back.
Absolutely, and as of today, you guys have access to those 15 things. So, Tracy, you going to produce me a Power BI, or you going to give me an access?
I don't know.
You're not going to commit to any of that.
I was interested in this Power BI. I'll have to talk to them.
So the unfortunate thing about Power BI is it does support some pretty cool visualization. So if I was Doug, I'd probably be able to show you other than these. It was a struggle just to put those numbers together.
The biggest drawback is the inability to share it very widely because of the licensing situations.
We can publish this, and then when you publish it, you have to email someone the link, and then the likelihood that they can open that link is low, so they got to go to AC&S and say, hey, can you make them authorized to use Power BI? Have you been sharing your stuff in Power BI?
Limited. Good tool.
If you're
ever interested.
So the big thing about a campus reporting tool is we're not going to be handcuffed like that. We're not going to have to call people up and say, hey, I got this report, but I can't see it, and I didn't do that. Famous last words, but we'll probably pick a tool that has security on it will probably have like row level security. So at some point we're going to be wrestling with these access issues. We always wrestle with access issues. I don't know. So HR data, most of you folks probably have access to HR data, but the HR team can actually control what data you look at. Most of the time they just let you look at your own department or a list of departments for ag sciences or vet. There's very few people that just can look at HR data across all departments. The authority would have that, but on the authority side, you guys kind of copy some of that restriction.
Right. Yes. We copy that over, and with user access privileges that I grant, people or departments, colleges, and so forth.
So it is restricted.
Yes.
Okay. So going to a campus reporting tool is not going to just automatically provide it to everybody. We're going to re-implement security.
What is your timing for bringing on HR and student?
Oh, great question. So I did want to ask this audience. So Vinay thinks he'd like to grab the lower hanging fruit, which is HR is way less complicated than student. We're kind of concerned it took us a year to build this Financial Datamart. The next Datamart will go faster for us because we're past the learning curve and getting people up to speed with the new tools and stuff that we use. So the next one will go faster. Vinay would like to see us actually tackle HR because we might be able to do that in just a few months. Once we embark on the student route, we just feel like that's going to be a really long endeavor. What's the need here?
There's always potential need, and so I could foresee that currently if I look at a financial transaction that came out of the accounts receivable system related to a student, all I see is that the description is AR transaction, it's generic. If I find the right field, I can identify that student's ID number, but I can't identify the name that goes with that student ID number unless they go out of the system and go someplace else to make that link and determine if I have a financial transaction that hit my account, does this student even belong to me? So there are applications out there that we currently aren't able to do easily that I can foresee in the future, but I don't think anybody's having a major argument over it. HR very similar. Right now, it would be nice to identify if I see somebody from another college that's hitting my account, who is that person? It's not easy to do currently. I might be able to see their name in the transaction, but I won't find any other information. Who is this person? How do I contact them? Would I have to go someplace else, Outlook or something, try to look up who this person even is? So it'd be nice to link that data somehow in the future and provide reports that are good.
So I think the key is to bring in demographic information into the data warehouse before we start bringing in the student data.
Yeah.
So this trying to track either a student or an employee. Anybody who has generated a transaction, doesn't really matter if they're student or employee.
Well, one example that we've seen is, so someone may get charged to an engineer, I'm with engineering, but someone may get charged to an engineering account, and we're like, we don't know who this person is, we gotta track this person down. Who are they? Hey, why are they charging to this account? Most likely it's a mistake, but we've gotta track that down.
So, I think whether we tackle HR or student, we're going to probably define this thing called the person dimension. And this person dimension is probably going to cover everybody. We're going to probably cover employees, students, students. We have special associates that are associated with research grants. So defining that will be a challenge. And that's probably, so whether we start with HR or whether we start with Banner. So every employee actually not only has like an e-name, but we have a CSU ID, so we're all in the Banner system. So not only are students in the Banner system, but employees are. And I don't know if that applies to associates, because associates will keep in HR, and if they're in HR, they have to be in Banner.
Mm-hmm. Banner generates the CSU IDs.
So associates even have a CSU ID. They'd be able to get a CSU card and get a RAM card.
That's right.
Is there plans to add PID-M to that as well?
The person record would have to then have, interesting you would call it a PIDM, because on the banner side we call it a PIDM. On the ODS side, it could either be PIDM or person UID. So this person table is going to have all the IDs. It's going to have the HR ID, the person UID, the PIDM, and the banner CSU ID, and I'm sure we have an EID ID or so. I don't know how many IDs we have, but
E-name, CSU ID.
So yeah, we'd have to. So guys, we have not embarked on what the next project is going to be, but clearly, we maybe have like 12 views in HR. So that would be way more complex than the hundreds of views that we have on the banner student side. So
I'd be interested in the student, like the approach that you're taking with the financial data of having everything in one view. Because as it is right now, we have to query like 4 different views to get fall data, spring data, with the fiscal year tacked on to the end of it, to provision accounts for our students logging into the college systems.
So let me throw this out. This is in ODS, so if you guys liked our summary or you like this master, you can join other tables and views in ODS that you have access to. So you can kind of do some of that reporting now. I lost my thought. Where was I going with that?
Well, I mean, I think during a restructure of adding student data, like reducing the number of views that we have to hit to get what we need about a student.
Can I comment on something? The biggest, because we've joined those HR, student, and financial on a daily basis. One of the issues are...
Anna's an IR, so they're the official system of record.
Yeah, one of the issues we're going to encounter is that this is daily data, but then the student data, there's also a, right now,
census and a term.
Census and a term. What do you want to join to? So you just, it's just extra careful exactly what you want out of your report. The same with employees. I mean, if you're looking at something that happened last month, maybe the employee's not here anymore, but was here at one time, or maybe changed departments. So it's just, it adds complexity. That's all. And you need to understand why you're doing what you want to get out of it, and to be able to join the correct things at the correct timing.
So when we do student, we're not going to do a single mark like we have here. There's going to be admissions perspective, there's going to be a registrar's office perspective, there's probably going to be a grad school perspective. I don't know if there's going to be an individual college perspective because Vet Med has, DVMs that no one else has, and I don't know, we had special PhDs. I don't know, guys. But so and I didn't even I didn't even address the timing of that. So how many marks are we going to have on the student side? I don't know.
Sometimes we want to count students, and count is a point in time. But sometimes you want, like for employees, we want FTE, so we want the whole year, how many hours were worked, not the number of employees. So you just need to address those things.
So finance is one data mart, and you can have multiple business processes within finance. GL was one. There can be travel. There is P card. You may not do that, but there's different business processes. Similarly with student, there's enrollment, there's admissions. Financial aid is another one. Those are individual business processes within student area. So, and each business process can have multiple star schemas. And I did design some summary tables at UNM for end of year and end of term, end of census. So they are their own tables with like a snapshot.
Right, but then you want to join to financial data, which is a year base.
Yes.
So not a term or a census.
It will be a lot more complex than the financial that we just saw.
But even now, like you mentioned, you could join, but just be careful what you're joining and the timing of what the data you're getting. So
does if we bought ODS from Aleutian and brought banner data over unmodified, we wouldn't have we wouldn't lose those students. I don't know why we designed ODS. Some ODS tables are exactly the same as Banner, except we intentionally excluded the deceased students. So I don't know who made that decision, but the registrar.
There were good rules for it
Yeah,
at the
the
time.
registrar's office definitely heavily weighed in on that.
It was so that they don't get mail. The family doesn't get mail.
Yeah, there's a lot of sensitivity issues associated with that, but definitely the registrar's office, you know, had input on that. But Vinay, so before we actually put the history for account, object, and org out there to address the changing fiscal officers and stuff like that, we're gonna freeze the master. We were gonna take this master and we were gonna do that monthly. So at the end of every period. So I think with student data, I don't know that we'll ever get away from moving away from census freezes and end of term freezes. I don't know about the issue with the deceased students, because I mean there's no good freeze that would, you know, address that.
No, that's an interesting one.
I think we need the subject matter area experts to guide us on that kind of information.
I was going to say, I'd be interested in that. I'm much smaller than everyone else, but I have federal reporting also. And so, as we're discussing this, I think a lot of people are using this internally, but how to be consistent in our federal reporting now.
Well, that's why they have the census dates,
Right.
and that's why a lot of things are locked in on those tables,
Right.
is so it can be repeatable for that because of the other things that happen.
Right, but I hadn't even thought of deceased students in mind, so here we go.
Guys, send us your feedback. You know, it sounds like we're hearing there is more interest on the student stuff than maybe the HR. John, it sounds like for HR, though, we really want to keep track of budget dollars. I remember when you were in Ag Sciences, there's like people that you were paying their salaries and you didn't even know who they were or something crazy like that.
Yeah, I think HR is definitely going to be the easier one to tackle first. The students is complex. It's also huge. There's so much data out there that tends to bog down any queries that you want. One other question I might have is just going back just to the financial piece. You said that you're at a place where maybe you could look at replacing Vista Plus. Is there any vision? Is there any traction? Is there anything we can do to maybe push towards that? To me, one of the most tragic things to watch fiscal officers in my college sit there and print these reports out and do this tick and trace where they had something like this, and maybe if it was taken to the next level where you could actually drill down. Here's my sub-fund level. Oh no, here's all the accounts within that sub-fund. Here's the transactions within those accounts. And now I can actually filter or sort those transactions and be much more efficient. If we could get people to that point. So I don't know what vision we have for, could we move to replace this Plus?
I'm actually really disappointed we don't have BFS here. We did a presentation to them. It wasn't at this level of detail, but you know, they have an entire group, department that writes the Vista Plus reports in Jasper. And the biggest downside to that is we have a PDF out there, you know. So we do the same thing. We take Vista Plus printed reports, copy the numbers, put them in spreadsheets, and do stuff with the spreadsheets. And it's just really antiquated. So we don't have any kind of...
about ODS applied to Vista Plus too. It's just proliferated into just these massive volumes of reports that it's difficult to even know what you're looking for. I think it's right to be replaced, but who we talk to or how we might push for that, I'm not sure.
So bring it up at CAG so Bob can hear it.
Okay.
Yeah, and David Ryan. So David Ryan would absolutely, so when we did our presentation to the Data Governance Committee, David Ryan sits on that. And he was the first one that asked for a presentation. So before we presented really high level stuff to CAG, we did present this and we were encouraged that the report writers were going to, you know, their reports are written in Jasper, but it's against predominantly KFS and a little bit against the ODS. But we want to encourage them to use, so we didn't share with them this master and the summary table. I think if we shared that with them, maybe they would be more receptive to using this, but we have not made any traction with that. And David Ryan is the one that we need to sell on that. And he would be, but it's going to be the same thing as the authority. They have a lot of reports out there. I think, what did we start with? There's like maybe 30 or 40 different reports from Vista Plus. And this one summary addresses some of those, but not all of them. So someone has to take those reports and rewrite them against this new Datamart. So, that takes time, and is it a top priority? It certainly isn't right now because we're in year end, so they're not going to look at that. They won't even look at this until, probably August. So. If then. So we don't have that. Kathy brings up a great point. CAG can kind of, put a little more pressure on us to consider some of these changes.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Kathy. I think both Bob and Dave Ryan and CAG maybe start the discussion.
So if you want to filter down to the transactions, you can still use the master table. You can provide some conditions on the sub-fund field or the account field and filter down to very particular transactions that you want to see.
Is this refreshed every night, or is it real time?
We haven't picked, today we did it at 5 o'clock because we didn't know what it would do and we didn't want to slow ODS, so we picked it at 5. KFS is pretty much done by midnight, so we can start to pull. So we are 100% independent of using ODS data. We don't use GL balance summary adjust or the snap, so we're pulling directly from KFS. So we will run at night and we do update daily. So by morning, you'll see it out there.
And KC for sponsor.
That's what I was going to ask about. What about KR data?
So we have very limited data. We have one dimension of the 15 is sponsor. It's very, very high level. We actually thought that that would be a potential new star, is to focus on, College of Engineering, you guys have your own Symphony application, and there's a lot of dollars, and they're only associated with like research accounts. So we don't have anything special about research accounts, but all the research dollars are in here.
Well, it's not the dollars of the award, it's the dollars in the proposal phase of it. The dollars, the FTEs associated with proposals going in, the different sponsors.
Well, proposal days is just getting going.
I know, that's why.
There's award data. There's award data.
Yeah, but you can get the award data. That's good, but the proposal data is really important for any sort of. I work in a total research area, 100%, and for us, that's our revenue. And so that's what we're looking at to base all of our staffing and new hires and all that is what we think is going to be awarded, and so that type of data.
Do you use Symphony? Because college.
Yes, I do, but that doesn't have anything for proposals.
Oh, your focus is on proposals.
That's all post-award. I do use Symphony, and I'm getting some of our PIs to use it too.
Yeah.
So we don't have award and we don't have a proposal in here, other than the awarded dollars are in the GL, so you can get to it, but we don't have a lot of the attributes that award. So Kathy is our expert on pulling all of the award stuff into ODS.
I'm not the expert, I just work with Diane, who is the expert, who tells me what to do.
And this video is for Diane.
Okay.
Well, and so maybe Doug could tell us about proposal, and because we'd have to work with Diane, and they're just putting that stuff together, and she would have to be able to be our subject matter area expert to actually help us, her and Doug,
Yes,
to make sure that
talking to her about getting it on board.
to make sure that it's all put together correctly, because there's special ways you need to look at that data too.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, Doug.
I mean, that's ultimately where we want to get to, right? Is to have KR feeding in the proposal data and the award data that so that we can see the whole life cycle of the research award, from proposal through award to conduct of the project. So, I mean, I know Diane's working on the things necessary to define what goes into ODS.
Right, but part of the other problem is they're supposed to be going to the cloud. So, when do we jump in? If they're going to be going to the cloud, then there's a whole different way of getting the data. So, do we spend the time now getting the data and then having to change how to get it? We don't know. So that's kind of why we know they're there and we want it. It's just, when do we go get it?
And we're in our infancy of proposal right now. So if we did another star, the likelihood that it would be something that we're really new at is not high at this point.
It will be in ODS. It's going into ODS right now. She's slowly putting it in there, and then she's validating the data. So it'll be in ODS first, and then in the way she's designing it is something we can unhook from there and just put into Datamart. So, but it's just, where's the data going to live? Is it actually live on premise, or is it going to be in a cloud? We don't know.